And welcome back to Bros in a Landfill, the only podcast whose neutral game is lost as soon as I open my mouth.
Ooh.
Your hosts this week are Lunchbillion.
Hi, I exist.
And I'm Trybien, and we're talking about video games again. Specifically, more fighting games, at least at the start of this. We'll see where this goes. But Lunch and I have been playing quite a bit of fighting games recently. And it's kind of bizarre because I've always enjoyed fighting games, but I don't tend to sink a lot of hours into them.
Yeah, I have a similar experience where I'm a big fan of fighting games casually, but I'll often play them a lot when I first get them, and then kind of drop off because I haven't really engaged in the greater community, and I don't feel like pushing past a certain skill ceiling. I'm like, yeah, basic competency is enough. I think the only game I've really played consistently and somewhat regularly is Smash Brothers.
Yeah, I'm not overly surprised. For me, I tend to play fighting games for the spectacle and for the characters and for the story. But once I get enough out of that, I generally don't need to continue on with learning the characters and stuff. I mean, that's generally if there's a story mode I played, I'll generally play through all the arcade endings since those are all story and character related. But the only other thing that I really go into fighting games for is the spectacle. I like seeing the special moves, the combo, really cool combos and stuff. I don't particularly care to pull them off myself, but that's also tends to be why I get myself in trouble when playing fighting games, because I have a tendency to show off because I like the spectacle rather than I'm going to play good and I'm going to try to win.
Sure. Well, I mean, there's a lot more to fighting games than just the. I guess for purists, the competitive depth of it is the main measure of what makes it valuable, and I think that's obviously an important part of it. And I like that means that esports can happen, and I like that these games are deep. But just the aesthetic and the fact they've got all these characters that are these big personalities that express themselves in their body language and their move sets. I think it's there's lots of art to fighting games in all corners, and I guess I like all of these little elements more so than I love getting super submerged into one of these games.
That's kind of how I feel. But that's also kind of the only fighting game that I really got into doing a lot of stuff outside of this main story stuff was Injustice for a bit. But Injustice 2 specifically, but
there's a lot of stuff to unlock, huh?
Yeah, but I eventually felt myself falling off because it turns into just an endless grind for more gear. And that's sort of the case for Mortal Kombat 11, but I think having all the unlockable fatalities and brutalities, and even having unlockable intros and outros, taunts and stuff, you have the crypt on one hand where you go through and you solve these puzzles, you open up chests and whatnot, and then you have the Towers of Time that have specific loot for different characters. And I feel
I think they did a better job than in Injustice 2 at making the bonus content feel more legitimate. It's more varied, and there's more things to unlock. Yeah,
and I much like this sort of thing over like a challenge tower, because when you're doing a challenge tower, it's a linear progression going up, doing these weird, goofy things, or these weird challenges. Where with the Towers of Time, and by virtue of this being a carrying over from Injustice 2, having something different, just swap out and rotations, is really nice to keep things interesting. And then if you don't want to do any of those, you can there's character towers for every single character outside of the classic towers, and they all have specific loot for those characters as well. So it's kind of stunning how much there actually is to do and unlock in Mortal Kombat 11.
I forget, have you played Smash Ultimate yet?
I have not played Smash Ultimate. It's on my list of games to play, or at least get, because I've played some with friends who've had it, but I haven't played it myself.
If you like the Mortal Kombat towers and trials and stuff, you might like the Smash Brothers content, because I mean the story mode, or I mean you can't really call it a story mode. There's no story, but it's just full of different fighting scenarios with weird gimmicks. And arcade mode or classic mode for every character is like the people you fight are different, and like sometimes there's different conditions. Like if you play as Ryu, then like they're all like stamina matches instead of percentage matches and stuff.
Oh, that's cool.
And like all of his opponents are like Nintendo characters that kind of remind you of Street Fighter 2 characters, and it plays that character's like theme music. So that's cool. So
that actually sounds really cool.
Zero Suit Samus is like Chun-Li or some shit. I forget exactly what it was, but it was cool.
Yeah. I really liked when I played through Melee's single player mode last year, and
Melee single player mode is the shit. That
was
rules.
Like I'll say this, Melee had no reason for having a single player mode that good, considering that it's just kind of supposed to be this fun party game.
Yeah, no, it's legit. It's funny, like I've got a lot of friends who are like hardcore Melee players who play in tournaments and like wave dashing and freaking elk canceling and doing all that crazy shit. And like the thing that like blew my mind is like talking to them, they're so hardcore skilled at the game more than I could ever be. They've like never played adventure mode. I'm like, what are you talking about? You just haven't. How have you never played adventure mode? That's like they're like people that like got into it after like probably watching the Smash documentary or something, you know. And it's like it's just like a hardcore game is all it is to them, and that's just kind of crazy to me.
I'll be honest. I feel like there is an entirely different feel playing against AI and playing against human beings. Like
Absolutely.
If part of your if you find the appeal of the game being competitive, like you're not. I could see the lack of mind game, the lack of human interaction in like the single player modes actually being a bummer and not getting the same enjoyment out of it.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I definitely prefer playing fighting games against real opponents. I just don't really want to dive that deep into the well of how skilled you can get.
I do like playing people, but I'm not really super into competitive games, and I find myself playing against the AI, and it's more of a puzzle of how each individual fight is programmed to, and you figure out which ways to exploit the game's internal logic rather than super reading the opponent's moves and getting into their head and like, oh, what's this person going to do next?
Yeah, the dynamic's very different. An AI is like if you suddenly start playing very aggressively, the AI is unlikely to get overwhelmed and nervous and then start getting hit and when they shouldn't. Because the AI is not going to get scared by your crazy pressure, you know? There's all kinds of stuff that's happening in a game with humans that isn't happening online. And although it's quite stressful, I think there's something really cool about that tension that feels very real, even though it's just a video game.
But I think there's also like one of the cool things about AI fights as opposed to real people is because because they're AI programmed, like they can essentially be tweaked in any infinite number of ways to be like these insurmountable challenges. Like every human has the potential to fuck up and to flub or to forget a combo or like be sick one day. An AI will never be sick. An AI will never have like any sort of emotional flux or mental blip or whatever.
Yeah, so in a way it's kind of a different challenge. Like it's a different puzzle to solve. And one that's a bit more predictable in good ways and bad ways, I guess.
Yeah, but I think that's also like where you can go up against the same AI fighter 100 times and learn the tricks and troves and beating it. When you're like you can eventually win against the AI in 100 fights. When you're fighting a human who's at their top level, chances are the more you fight them, the easier it is for them to beat you because they start learning your tricks more and more.
Well, the cool thing is that you both learn, or maybe maybe you don't, and maybe only the other guy learns.
I guess
you know.
I guess yes, you're learning while you're fighting them, but it's like both players are learning at the same time, whereas an AI isn't really trying to learn. And a lot of these games, they actually make the AI easier every time you lose because, frankly, they don't want you to throw the game out the window and never play it again and never buy the next sequel.
But yeah, I mean, even like if they don't do that, then it's like it's you versus a static challenge, or like the boss is always going to be the same. And which is a different dynamic from a regular match against people. Because like you can maybe get better and better during this fight, and the AI will stay the same. So like it's kind of there's like an objective line as to like how much better you're doing. Yeah. And so that's kind of neat.
Like it's actually even kind of funny because like the same principles apply to both sides. Like if you're not like like when you're playing a game, like fighting game, it's all about like looking for those openings, reading the frame data, blocking, and not giving yourself any openings. But the two different like types of opponents between AI and a human being gives the games an entirely different set of feel, even if like they play at similar levels.
I don't immediately know how to follow that up. We just had a strangely insightful and interesting conversation on Bros in a Landfill about the nature of human games versus AI games. But yeah, I don't know. I think both are valid ways to play fighting games, and I like it when games cater to both crowds. Like I think both, like, each crowd can kind of get tunnel vision about how they think their way of playing the game is better. But you know, I like stuff like Mortal Kombat where they do include content for both, because I think that's part of the strength of fighting games, is that you can play them how you like. Like you playing against the AI is no more valid than someone having fun playing against their roommate. You know, it's like I don't know. It's always made me a little bit sad that like there's such a disconnect between, or not so much these days, but there's historically been a huge disconnect between like casual Smash Brothers players and tournament Smash Brothers players, where they really disrespect each other's ways of playing or preferred game in the series, you know.
But I think that's
also tribes.
But that's also one of the cool things I like about Mortal Kombat is that as opposed to like maybe something like Smash where like the single player and the multiplayer are completely separated. With something like Mortal Kombat, because everything you acquire in the single player mode are cosmetics, it kind of creates this dynamic of you're going out of your way to collect all these cool things to show off to the other people that you're fighting. Like, oh, you unlocked this really cool skin that not a lot of people will get. Let's go into the lobbies and show it off, make people jealous. Or, oh, I've got this cool brutality that I figured out by being this really hard challenge tower, and I'm gonna go use it, figure out how to use it in casual mode or competitive mode to disrespect my opponents. Like
that is kind of one cool thing about cosmetics and I guess newer games, how you can use them as like a badge of honor. Though I guess in a lot of newer games it also means it's like either this guy's really good and unlocked this thing really impressively, or he spent $40 and got it. You know,
like even though Mortal Kombat 11 does have microtransactions, like it could have been a lot worse. Like you could have had an actual storefront where you're buying all this stuff, but most of the stuff is in the combo tower, like challenge towers, and like the only way you'll be spending money for that is if you're buying consumables to cheese the towers. And at that point, if you're not good enough, if you're that bad at the game where you're having to use consumables for easy towers, it's like why would that person go into competitive mode anyways?
Sure.
But
okay, so you've been playing a bit of Mortal Kombat lately. I guess in anticipation for the new the new DLC,
Aftermath, yeah.
RoboCop, fucking Fujin, the other one.
Yeah. Shiva?
Yeah, the one that's supposedly my favorite. I can't remember the name of.
Come on, Brett.
Don't you use my real... You feel extra disappointed in me when you use my real name. She's cool, all right? She's so cool that I forgot her name because I was so like overwhelmed by her sense of style and mohawk and rippling muscles.
Well, especially nice because now, like in the like Mortal Kombat lore, like she's a good guy now, so it's like not even like, oh, this impending doom. It's like, yeah, she's on our side.
Right. I don't have to be like, oh man, she's cool, but she eats babies or something. Because I mean, like she's awesome, but she also looks like she might.
I mean, that brings a whole new context to Mortal Kombat 9 with the whole babality system.
Oh, right. I've turned you into a baby, so I can eat you. No, I still know English because I still have my adult mind, but I have a tiny baby body.
Yeah.
I've been playing. Whoop! I just moved my mic a little bit. My bad.
Oh God.
I've been playing a bit of Dragon Ball FighterZ for the first time.
What?
It's another one of those games that I played a bunch like when it first came out, and then just sort of dropped and forgot about. But I
just like its story.
Sorry?
Just like the game's story?
Yeah, that game's story is like, that's a slog, dude.
I still have to go back to that at some point. Like, it's sad. Like, I actually went on my way to do all of the combo challenges, but I couldn't even give the game enough respect to do the rest of the story.
Yeah, it's just not a very interesting story. It's such a grind. Like,
Yeah.
they could fit the same story into much less fights.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's the thing. It's the grind. It's that whole board game aesthetic of it. And then, like, oh, there's all of these secret conversations that you can have when you pair certain characters up with each other. But this is also an EXP-based system, so if you want to see these special things, you got to put on the characters that you haven't leveled at all and go up against this really bullshit fight with weak characters. But you want to see this conversation, right?
Yeah, of course I want to see the conversation. That's the entire point of this. Yeah, they string you along for, like, this fan service. And, like, that stuff is entertaining. But, yeah, it's just... They're kind of, it feels like psychological torture. Anyway, now that I've used those words to describe a video game, yeah, I've been playing the game a little bit more. I didn't really know what came over me. I think just I've been watching some videos of the game since like Ultra Instinct Goku just came out, and I thought this game is really fun to look at. And it's very colorful, and I thought I'd try it again, and it's still those things. It's I really like that game. Like it's really sharp. It's very responsive. And just like the feeling of hitting guys is just very punchy. And it's been cool.
I find that it has both the snap and this weight that a lot of like other anime fighters. I guess considering that there's like the same engine as Guilty Gear, it makes sense because Guilty Gear Xrd is also very snappy, but has a lot of weight behind every hit.
And it's an important thing to get right because it is Dragon Ball Z, so you know it's got to feel super powered. And I think they did a good job. So yeah, I kind of felt like playing it. I didn't know if I was gonna really go anywhere, but I found like a regional Discord for the game, and they're like, "Oh, we're doing an online tournament in like 2 or 3 hours, so join us." And it was really great timing because otherwise I probably just would have forgotten again. But I ended up playing the game, and I got absolutely rocked by people online. But it was fun.
Of course.
And so it kind of made me want to get back into it. I went and bought a Bardock, because he seems really good and kind of newbie. And just seems to have some shit that is really obviously really easy to do and really good. And I also just like that character because I used to play him on the PS2 games when I was like a kid. Oh. And so, because he's like Goku, but like an angry drill sergeant at the same time.
He's an angry dad.
Yeah. I mean, he's a shitty dad. And if you watch the actual anime,
yeah, I've seen.
He's like
I've watched all the Team 4-Star abridged episodes. Of course, I know all about Dragon Ball.
There's like he sees like his baby like in like the freaking baby pod because no one's actually watching him. He's just like floating in a vat of liquid. And he shows up and he like scans it and he's like, "Oh, his power level's so weak. Oh, my son is terrible." And then he just leaves and like doesn't think about him again until the end. Like, though they kind of retconned him in the new Dragon Ball, and like now he's kind of a nice guy. But originally, and like he's got the old school design in Fighters, so this is the asshole dad one.
Oh, good. That's how we need it to be.
It's cool, right? Because he's just like a cutthroat Saiyan. Like it's like, why would Goku's dad be any different from 90% of Saiyans? Like,
I mean, that was kind of the point of the Saiyans, that they're just all supposed to be like giant dicks.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're like barbarians. They're like that happen to get their hands on like space technology, and they're just employed by Space Hitler to like commit genocide. That's their job. They commit genocide, and then like so someone else can buy the planet that they just genocided. You know?
Yeah, it's like if everybody on Krypton was a dick.
I think you're underselling the genocide thing a little bit, but yeah.
Yeah, but I feel like that was kind of the point because like with him, Goku's supposed to be like this outlier, this oddball, because he grew up on a different planet with different moral system and with a like loving like parents, like a loving parent. Like it was one of the things I got from Dragon Ball was that like you can have this person that was born on like this barbarian like dickhole planet, but because he was in a different environment, he grew up to be a really good yet really dumb person.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's like there's kind of more going on in the story for the Saiyan saga than I think people give credit for. I mean, it's not the deepest thing ever, but I just really like the idea that like, Vegeta and Nappa show up and they're like, you're like a low class runt of our society. You're like have no standing. We sent you to this planet because you're pathetic and useless. And Goku's like, well, I work hard and believe in myself, and I can be just as good as you are. And then he beats him up, and it's like he's like beating up like the personification of anything that ever told him he can't be who he wants to be.
Yeah.
And and Vegeta's got this entitlement, because he was born into where he's born into, and his like what he thought
Prince Vegeta.
Yeah, right. And so it's like what he thought he just like had as a birthright is like being challenged by someone who he considers beneath him. Like, it's a cool little story.
He gets beat up by a fucking carrot.
Excuse me.
That's fine. Yeah.
So yeah, what were we talking about? Dragon Ball FighterZ. I don't know. It's a fun game. People are beating the shit out of me, but I'm having fun. It's kind of one of those games where you don't know when you're allowed to press buttons because, like,
yeah, no, I get that.
They're like jamming buttons on you, and then they like halfway through, like another guy jumps in and does an attack, and another guy jumps in and hits you from behind, and like in the 1 hour combo, there's like a 1 second bit where you had a chance to attack, and you're so like startled that you get to move again that you do something dumb, and then you get hit for another hour.
Yeah, well, that's the funny thing about those long combos in these anime games is that like you kind of have to know the combo your opponent's doing to know when to get out. But if you don't already know that combo, you're kind of
right. And this is a game where like it's not just like when you fight someone, it's not like okay, I have to learn the Goku matchup. It's like I have to learn the Goku, Frieza, and Hit matchup, which is like different from any of those guys individually because they're like a cohesive unit and. I have to think about how they all work together, and it's like, shit, I barely even learned my characters yet. I just bought this guy 5 minutes ago.
It's like, I'll be honest, like, that's the one thing that, like, really keeps me from playing FighterZ, and it's the same thing with Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3. I find those 3-on-3 fighters to be very obnoxious because they're designed in a way where you can just kind of infinitely cancel into the other teammates. Like, it's one thing if you only have one teammate because, generally speaking, the cooldown for each person is long enough that a combo has to be like the combo is likely not going to last that long. But once you have three teammates, it's like, oh my god, it's like, time to swap into the second person. Time to swap into the third person. The cooldown for the first person's done. Time to go back to the first person.
It's a lot to take in, and especially when just like the game is already so flashy and fast in every other way.
It's very easy to pop off in FighterZ too because like aerials, like I find aerials in the game to be easier than like any other fighting game simply because they have flying built in.
Right.
Like the game is heavily designed around mid-air play, and like even other fighting games that have like characters that you spend a lot of time in the air, I feel like you spend so much. It's much easier to stay in the air in FighterZ, especially once you add in the tagging in and out.
Yeah, it makes sense given the source material. I find it interesting, like how different. I mean, I guess one thing that really shows that is how you can block in the air in fighters. In a lot of fighting games, you can't because the air is like a dangerous spot to be in. But like, I guess in fighters, it's like, well, you're expected to fight in the air, so like we're not gonna punish you for that.
Yeah, that's fun. It's true. Yeah, it's like where like in Mortal Kombat, being in the air is absolutely punishing. Like especially with characters that have anti-air combos.
Well, it's a real commitment, right? Like you jump and you're in that specific jump arc and you can't block. Well, like in fighters, like you could jump in, but then you could double jump away, or you could air dash, or you could super dash, or teleport and be behind them. You know.
Yeah. But I think that's the other thing. Maybe like in not Mortal Kombat, in FighterZ's favor is there's so many ways to mix it up in that game. There are so many ways to engage in, like confrontation.
Yeah, no, there's a real freedom to it. It's part of what makes the game exciting and fun. And like for like as frustrating as it can be to get stuck in these huge combos, it's fun to do combos. Because I don't know, it's like like I'm not the biggest combo guy. I have trouble figuring out how these work, but I can still sort of build combos in that game a little bit, just because the rules of it are pretty freeform. And I can teleport, I can switch characters, and I can do all kinds of crazy shit.
Yeah, but that's why I can actually actually recommend the combo challenges in FighterZ, because like they're so varied and there's so many ways that you can go about stuff, and they actually, because the mid-air game is pretty easy and it's a bit floatier, like pulling off the mid-air combos it throws at you aren't that difficult. I think it's like the only game that like I've really done all the combo challenges for every character with little ease. I think there was a few characters I had to look up for some help because their combos didn't work as listed. Like you had to mix in some extra shit.
Right.
But like other than that, like being able to figure out like how you can even chain together special moves and combos was like really satisfying.
It might be a good idea for me to check out because like I'm really quite noob at this game. Like I'm just barely scratching the surface of it. I mean, like I feel like there's just a lot of potential to do all kinds of crazy shit.
And I find the pace of combat in that game very satisfying too. As you're like, it's not too fast, but you're not like sluggish.
Yeah, no, it's exciting. Like it's a bit different from fighting games I would normally play because I generally prefer games where like the neutral is more pronounced, while like in this game like it's just so aggressive and you're so like there's so many different things that you need to think about reacting to. And if you panic, then you'll get stuck in a combo for another hour. So like, and like, I'm not saying these are flaws. It's just like the kind of game it is. And generally, you know, because like, I don't know. I used to when I was like, and a kid, like I really liked the Street Fighter. I thought it was a much, I don't know. I just liked the kind of flow of that game. And I've had to sort of adapt to something like Fighters.
So, but like that's the important thing about like fighting games is that each fighting game, like they shouldn't play the same. They should play differently. Like they speak to entirely different audiences and with different things. Just because a game plays differently doesn't mean that it's any better or worse. It's just how broken or unfair a game might be.
Well, I mean, we don't need the same game just with a million times just with different characters and graphics. Like, well, they may as well be different. And appeal to people for different reasons, outside of just however cool the characters look.
Yeah, like I can like totally go from something like Mortal Kombat to like Under Night to FighterZ, and like they're all entirely different fighting games, but they all have their different appeals.
Yeah, I mean, one game I really like is called The Lost Blade 2, which is like an old SNK fighting game. But I think it was meant to be like sort of a spiritual successor to Samurai Showdown, and
Speaking
Samurai
of which,
Showdown is pretty much, they're kind of like I think they play very similarly, but the idea is that they're weapon fighting games, but like the damage output is just very very high, and so like it's a much more tense game where you don't want to take risks as much, or just I'm not just gonna hit super dash and fly in because like I'll get punished really hard. And there's also a parry mechanic in that game, so like it's a very careful game where like a few missed reads can mean death, and like it's really tense and exciting. And like there's like no music all the time; it's just like environmental noises, and you're like in the bush and stuff, and it's like I don't know, it's a really clever game, and that's just another example that's like complete opposite direction from something like Fighters or MVC.
Yeah, that's sort of the feeling I get from something like Dead or Alive, because like Dead or Alive as a game is a very very careful game.
Really?
Because it works on this rock paper scissors mechanic of basic attack, counter, and throw, where if if you're attacking, you got to hope that your opponent doesn't counter. If you counter, you better hope your opponent doesn't throw, because counters and throws can deal massive amount of damage.
Right.
Like one of the things about Dead or Alive is like you're not going to be doing these long combos, but the attacks you do are going to do a lot of damage. So you like it's all about reading and guessing what your opponent's going to do. Like that's actually one of like my one friend I play fighting games with. He did MMA, so like he's really good at like the reading those sorts of things. And I can't play Dead or Alive with him without getting my ass handed to me dearly. But then I can go into something like Mortal Kombat and I can kick his ass in like nearly every round.
Right. That's interesting.
But, like
I've never played Dead or Alive, and I had no idea what kind of fighting game it was. It's interesting to hear it's actually kind of careful and dangerous.
Yeah, and I think being that I'm such an aggressive player, that's one of the reasons why I have a hard time with Dead or Alive is that I want to go and I want to do those throws, I want to do those.
I want to push the buttons, yeah.
And then he comes in, he just counters me or throws me, and it's like, or he does like some like short combo that does a lot of damage, like it's like I know people meme about the jiggle physics with Dead or Alive, but it's not a game really to be messed with. It's like
do not trifle with this shit, or you will get burned.
Yeah. But I think that's also why you don't see a lot of Dead or Alive in competitive play, because it's not really like it's not very exciting to watch.
Right, not much of a spectator sport apart from the jiggles.
Like you're not gonna get these cool combos, or you're not gonna get like these cool combos or these special moves popping out. It's very like methodical, like MMA. It's essentially just like an MMA like fighting tournament with anime titties. and like Ryo Hayabusa from that one SNES like ninja game.
So it's like if you cross UFC with the UFC ring girls.
Yeah, basically, it's like if you cross UFC with Ninja Gaiden. Amazing. With UFC ring girls, yeah. It's funny because like.
Sorry, go on.
I just think it's like Dead or Alive is such a weirdly interesting, colorful cast of characters. I played the 3DS one that was like kind of like it was Dead or Alive Dimensions, which I think was like the story of the
Dead
first
or Alive.
Yeah, there's a 3DS Dead or Alive.
That seems
it had stage transitions, and it went through the story of like I think the first 3 or 4 games. It's kind of like a weird anthology game, but I enjoyed it quite a bit.
That's I feel like there's not a lot of fighting games on the 3DS.
I mean, the only ones I know of are Dead or Alive Dimensions, Street Fighter 5 3D, no Street Fighter 4 3D, and Blaze Blue Continuum Shift 2.
I gotta say that Street Fighter port, like I think I've only played it like once, or maybe I watched a video. I can't remember. It's been years, but like it's a surprisingly good looking port. It really does look like Street Fighter 4. I don't know how they pulled it off.
Yeah, it looks really good with the 3D on too, because like I'm a sucker for 3D graphics. Don't at me,
dude. Street Fighter 4 is a good game, and I think it has a cool art style. I know a lot of friends of mine have been like, it just looks ridiculous because everyone's like giant and jacked, but it's like whatever. It's a style, man. Just accept that they got big feet. Enjoy the colors. You know,
I wasn't too into it, but I felt like the pace was a little bit slow for my tastes.
Oh, yeah.
But I think that's why I like Street Fighter 5. Street Fighter 5 bumped the speed up a little bit, but just enough so it was still felt Street Fighter touch and go.
Sure. I'm gonna like dial back the conversation just for a minute because I just remembered a thing I wanted to say about Dragon Ball.
Oh boy.
'Cause, I don't know, we were talking about like how a lot of what's fun about these games is like, you know, the aesthetic and the characters and stuff. There's kind of a funny effect there because it's based on like an existing property where like, I really didn't like Dragon Ball Super. I've probably talked about it at length on this podcast. I would assume at some point that I've talked about that. But like, so a lot of these like characters and scenarios I didn't like very much when I was watching the anime. But I love Dragon Ball as like a property. And so like in the fighting game, like I'll see characters like Zamasu or Goku Black or whatever, and for me it's like I can sort of detach them from how much I didn't like the show and just think of them as new toys to play with in the Dragon Ball world, you know? It's like having a bunch of new action figures.
Well,
and like
I've never been
it's cool.
But like for me, like I've never been the biggest Dragon Ball fan. Like I barely watched the show, but I get a kick out of the games. Like I really enjoy FighterZ. I played the Tenkaichi, like Budokai Tenkaichi 3 and Ultimate Tenkaichi quite a bit back in like
Love
when
Tenkaichi
I was
3.
Yeah. I quite liked Ultimate Tenkaichi, but for the same reason why I like the Ultimate Ninja Storm games, where it was just kind of the spectacle. Like I didn't care that they didn't play great or they were that deep. I just enjoyed having like these big, absurd like quick time event boss battles.
I never played that one, but I see what you mean because I've seen like clips with the giant like craters and stuff and dirt flying around.
I quite enjoyed there was a create your own character story mode that kind of mirror. Like it was like an alternate
Oh
timeline.
yeah, that
mirrored
was the thing they did with that game. Now I remember.
I quite enjoyed that.
Hmm.
Though it also had the same Ultimate Ninja Storm problem of ridiculous button mashing that I don't understand how anybody could feasibly do without cheating.
Some games are just built to fucking hurt your body because they forgot to come up with a game.
Like, it is because of Ultimate Ninja Storm 2 that I think I broke one of my PS3 controllers.
I thought you were gonna say you broke your thumb, and so I'm really relieved that it was just your property.
Yeah, no, I had to pick up the I had to learn how to do the spoon trick. Have you ever heard of spoon trick when it comes to button mashing?
Spoon trick? No.
So if you take a spoon, you put it on top of a button and you rub it back and forth really fast. The controller reads that as you're button pressing it really fast, and it'll fill up a button press bar.
Huh. And this is how you broke your controller?
Yeah, well, because I was playing so many games that had so many button mashes because I was playing so much
right.
Ultimate
a little spoon trick
Daiichi.
here and there is not going to hurt anybody, but this might.
I don't think it was a spoon trick that did it. I think it was just doing it enough.
Centuries
down the buttons.
of pain and worn down. Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, if you ever have a game with a bullshit button press and you can't physically, if you can't do it and you don't have anybody around you that can pull it off, yeah, just fucking grab a spoon.
I'm glad I don't have access to that game right now because I know I would fucking play it
because you don't have any spoons. You don't have any spoons. Let's be real.
I'm made of spoons, dude. I drink tea every fucking 3 seconds.
I mean, you are lunch,
right? I'm exactly. I'm the master of spooning. I mean, having spoons. I mean, shut up. What were we talking about?
I was talking about button pressing. I talked about destroying a controller. You had something that you were going to say.
I forgot. But I don't know. I like Dragon Ball Z. This whole not having a real topic thing is, it has its tribulations.
Yeah. You like Dragon Ball Z? I like Naruto. I actually like Naruto a lot. I grew up with it. It has a close place to my heart. I think I got similar feelings to Naruto as Dragon Ball fans has to Dragon Ball. You know what? That's entirely okay.
But it's a shame that Naruto doesn't have a tournament worthy fighting game.
Yeah. I hope that Arc System picks it up.
They could make it look good.
I think. Dude, it'd be sick. I'd say probably the closest thing we have a tournament worthy fighting game would be either Clash of Ninja or the old Ultimate Ninja Storm games on PS2. The newer Ultimate Ninja Storm stuff that would not fly in. It's just you're hitting circle the entire time and there's not much in terms of combos and stuff.
I feel like
technical combos.
I feel like they'd have trouble making. It would take them quite a long time, I reckon, to make a roster that encapsulates the entire series. Because I mean, I didn't watch the entirety of Naruto, but I'm somewhat familiar with it, and there are a great many characters in there. In Dragon Ball FighterZ, it's sure there's a lot of characters over the series to go over, but there's also room to have 6 Gokus.
I could easily see that instead of doing things in terms of characters, I did it in terms of squads. I think that might be the. I think that might be the easiest.
Yeah, honestly, if anything, Naruto makes more sense as a team-based fighter than Dragon Ball.
Yeah,
fights in Dragon Ball are not team-based almost ever.
Yeah, that's what really got me. I feel like the only reason why they did that is so they could have those special secret entry intros and outros based on who's on your team.
I think they did it because they were filling the gap of Marvel vs. Capcom.
That's fair, especially after Infinite.
My speakers cut out for a second. Did you say anything?
Especially after Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, a game I definitely haven't played.
Yeah, no, that was a perfect storm. I think that's part of why Fighters took off so much, because they announced this game, it looked really good from the get-go, and it was right around the time that Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite was getting shat on by everybody. I think they might have even did they release the Fighters beta on the same day that MVCI came out or something? It was something like that. They just ate Capcom's launch, dude. They like. So I think it was actually a really good idea to appeal to the fighting gamers.
But aren't you Capcom's lunch?
Oh shit. Well, yeah, they got me.
Oh god, we gotta get you back from FighterZ. That's why you've been playing it.
They devoured me.
They devoured. Yeah. Yeah. I thought that FighterZ got really big because anime fighter fans had something to look at, or point to, say like this is a good game, and also Dragon Ball Z is like one of the biggest anime properties. So
right, they're like, we finally have a good game, guys. We have a game that people take seriously. But well, that's not really fair because Blaze Blue.
Well, no, it's not a matter about being a good game. It's about it being a good game with a recognizable property. A lot of the Blaze Blue, Guilty Gear, Arc Sys fans in general, like those are all good fighting games, but they're their own like obscure niche properties that some random Joe isn't going to pick up.
No,
like,
but putting Goku on the front, yeah, that'll do it.
Yeah. Like, so having the Arc System fighter format, which is already really good. You have great music, you have cool combos, very flashy finishers, and great stories.
It's awesome that somebody that there are people out there to give Dragon Ball like the love and polish that like a series like that deserves, because like for so long adaptations of things have been like whatever. Like, I mean, like if you look at all the Dragon Ball Z games leading up to Fighters, like, I mean, I don't think they're all terrible. I think there are some good ones in there, but by and large, it's like they can make whatever kind of game they want and people will buy it because it's Dragon Ball. But Fighters is like, let's put in real quality. Let's like,
but that's the thing. Like Dragon Ball FighterZ pulled in the spectator fighter crowd. So the games that like play the Dragon Ball Z games like me, or like that like the spectacle, the anime fightings, and the Arc System anime fighter hardcore fighting game fans. And it kind of is a beautiful marriage of, I think Mortal Kombat actually does something very similar, because Mortal Kombat's a very flashy, stylish game, but it's also well, it's got the controversy with all like the blood and gore and whatnot, but it's also a very technical fighter. Like, I think that's why it does so well. Like, if it was just a really good fighting game, it wouldn't be as big as it was. If it was just a gory, silly mess, it wouldn't be as popular as it.
Well, I mean, Mortal Kombat was around like Mortal Kombat hasn't.
No, I'm talking about now. I feel like if people. Like if you look at like the PS2 era wasn't very competitively viable. But it was silly and goofy, but that's also
that's what I was about to say. Like like I think because that franchise hasn't been gone. It's been consistently around for years, and there's a lot of games in that series. But like, it was like they had to give it like a little bit of extra love and a fighting game juice to make it a big deal again.
It's like, no, I could say like how like maybe like Jank 9 can be. Like Mortal Kombat 9 does have a bit of that Street Fighter-ish, like touch and go, like very like careful, technical sort of play. And I feel like they've built on that from 9 to 11, because 11 feels so good to play, and it's kind of silly.
Yeah, 9 was kind of the beginning of making Mortal Kombat great again. And you know, I don't know, it's just a solid game. Like it's by making that jank game that they kind of gave MK enough respect to justify the crazy amount of money they would go on to spend on it. I shudder to think at how much it costs to make MK11.
Well, I think after the flop that was Mortal Kombat versus DC Heroes, I feel like they knew they needed to make a change, and I think the change they went was to make it more competitive friendly, because like Mortal Kombat versus DC has a lengthy story mode that I'd argue isn't actually that bad, especially compared to the Mortal Kombat stories.
Yeah, but the game controls weird and doesn't feel nice to play. Like,
well, that's exactly the thing.
The thing is that MK9, it's not just the competitive thing helps, but MK9 is just fun. It just feels good.
No, but isn't that what makes the game competitive? A game that's fun and feels good and inspires people to learn the mechanics. If you're, I
not necessarily. Like, you can make a game that feels good but is not deep.
I mean, Brawl. Why isn't Brawl competitive?
Well, Brawl is competitive. It's just not like
I think Brawl's mainly competitive when you're talking about with people who play the mods, not the actual game itself.
Well, I wouldn't.
Like
that's a different thing. Well, I mean, Brawl did have a tournament scene for a long time. It just was not like very spectator friendly, and perhaps it wasn't as deep as Melee. But like, they had like a legit scene. I don't know. I think the game gets a bit of a bad rap.
Yeah, no, I think Brawl is a great party game. I think it struggles being competitive, and I think that's why Melee survived through Brawl.
Well, I mean, part of why Melee survived through Brawl is that Smash 4 came out, which was like a better version of that style of Smash game. Yeah. I mean, like, I don't want to like try and like rewrite history here, because I mean, I definitely think Melee is more successful as a competitive game. And I forget why we're talking about this in the first place, but Brawl did have a competitive scene, and like people played it for years. It just was like not super exciting, and it was super broken balance wise.
Yeah, but I think the thing is most fighting games has some level of competitive scene. I think Brawl probably stuck around with the competitive scene because it already had Melee as a.
That's true. I think it rode the coattails of Melee for sure.
And I think it's telling that Melee still has a competitive scene even when you have Smash 4, Smash Ultimate, which is a really good competitive.
I'm not gonna claim that Melee doesn't have longer legs and isn't a bit. I think Melee is a better game than Brawl. At least in like a purely competitive sense, absolutely. But I'm struggling to decide what to say because I don't remember why we're talking about this.
Yeah, I don't. Well, I think we were talking about what makes games fun and competitive, what makes them survive and worth money. And where I was,
you're saying like, doesn't a game being fun to play? Isn't that what gives it like depth? Because it encourages people to find the depth.
Yeah, well, I think it's a matter of having a recognizable having something that makes it stand out and being fun to play. Because I think depth can be found in most of any game. Like you can even say like Smash Bros. Like maybe isn't like depth deep in terms of pulling off combos, knowing like these characters like inside and out. Smash is a very it's more about placement. It's about like you find the depth not in like long intricate character movesets. It's like finding how the characters fit well within certain stages.
Sure. Well, I mean like there's I just think like it's not like every game is equal depth though. Like I mean like if you look at, you know, Naruto on Ultimate Ninja Storm or whatever, like you've got a game where like there's not really like there's no neutral game really. It's like it's not fun to play, it's fun to watch. It's more of a spectacle. Like that's why like previous Dragon Ball fighting games didn't have much of a competitive scene, like the Ultimate Tenkaichi, like the whole PS3 era. I'm saying that depth isn't necessarily attached to how fun something is to watch or even how fun it is. Like,
well, no, I get no, but okay. I think we're talking past each other because what I was trying to get to is what makes something like FighterZ and Mortal Kombat, why those propelled further over other games within their own series, because they were both fun to watch, fun to play, and competitively deep. It's not that.
Oh, sure.
Like it's the combination of those elements that like makes something
they managed to preserve what was cool about the earlier, less popular games, while making them more competitive.
Yeah.
Because like Tenkaichi and fucking probably Deadly Alliance or whatever, flashy games with cool poses and explosions and stuff.
But shit, they were clunky and not particularly fun to play.
And then I lose my audio.
No!
I'm back. Yeah, so that's fuck, that really threw off my train of thought. Delete that entire sentence.
Yeah. Okay, I might as well delete the whole entire podcast because we're completely going off the rails here.
No, but there's some interesting discussion in here, I think.
Yeah.
Or at least I'm interested in it. I hope you at home are interested.
Yeah. Well, I mean, fighting games are I think inherently interesting. Yeah. But yeah, I think it's just a matter of, I think depth can be found in anything, but you have to like create something that's fun to play and fun to like engage with and fun to watch.
I don't think there's depth in everything. Like or like I think that there's obviously varying degrees of depth, which is kind of what I was getting into earlier. And some games just are shallow, you know. Some games are like, well, there's one strategy that's obviously really good, or like I mean, like I was bringing up like, you know, Naruto Ninja Storm or whatever, not to like dunk on the game because I think it's fine for what it is, but like the difference between like the depth and the movement mechanics and like compared to like Smash Brawl, for example, is like it's a huge chasm. Like there's all kinds of different ways you can move in Brawl. There's all different kinds of different attacks with different ranges, different startups and stuff, and like ways to make yourself up. Well, like in these anime kind of beat 'em ups, it's like, okay, you can run in and you can hit your one attack button, which is like a jab that like hones in on the opponent and comes out instantly. Like
I would argue that where Ultimate Ninja has like maybe not as in depth in terms of combos. Like there's a lot you can do in the game. It's more than just hitting buttons. It's about there's between the special moves, between projectiles, between placement, different characters having different stuff. There's transformations. There's team specials. There's especially like when you get into the fourth game where it has like the whole team thing, swapping out and extending combos through swapping, or do you use the character's tag assist rather than swapping?
I think the problems that these games just have a very weak neutral. Because like you know, like part of it's the perspective. Like I like the fact that's the behind the back thing, but like it's quite hard to gauge like the range of a regular attack, and you've only got like one or two like just normal strikes. I don't know, like, and there's like the teleport thing, like there's just like, but there is some depth in it. Like, of course, it is a video game, but like, there's.
I was saying is like where I was going more is like the depth isn't in the punching. The depth is in everything, because I feel like the game doesn't really want you to just do the punching. Like it's maybe not like a technically depth game, but I feel like it's mechanically there's a lot you can do to mix things up, and at a high level, like it's somebody who's playing at a high level could easily outclass someone who's just looking at it as a shallow punch.
Sure, but like how many like levels are there? Like how deep is the pool? I feel like it's not that deep.
There are so many characters that I feel like there's
and they
a lot
all play the same.
It's kind of deceptive because they all kind of play the same, but they all have like one or two things different about them. Rather than having like a bunch of like entirely different characters, it's like, oh, you have a bunch of characters with slight differences.
I mean, like I'm not here to dunk on your game. Like I don't have anything against this game.
No, I'm making your chain. Why the fuck am I arguing that Ultimate Ninja Storm is that deep or complex of a game?
I mean, like if it were deeper, like there would probably be people playing it like that. I don't know. Like it's not not every fighting game. Like, okay, you've got Street Fighter 2, right? And then you've got like fucking Tattoo Assassins, or you've got
the reason why those games don't take off is because it's not impressive to watch someone win, because like you know that they're just like when you're watching a fighting game like FighterZ or even Mortal Kombat, you know they're doing some pretty technically cool shit with their controller.
I don't think the technical aspect is nearly as important as like
but
it's part of depth, but like it's like the possible number of interactions and ways people can fuck with each other seems a lot lower, and like, you know, like it's not just about like the physical difficulty of performing a special combo, which is still a cool part of fighting games, but like, you know, it's like, yeah, there's depth in checkers and there's depth in chess, and they're completely different like pools, and one of them goes a lot deeper, and that's fine. But I should get like, you to play. Chess is just considered a more competitive, deep game, and I'm just saying that like I'm not completely downplaying anything that you can do on the Naruto games, but like I don't think all fighting games are born equal in terms of that competitive viability, which is not even what they're all going for.
I should really get you to play Ultimate Ninja Storm at some point because like I think the reasons why it like I think yes the level like it's clearly not as deep as like some other fighting games, like the actual fighting mechanics of each character isn't really fleshed out. It's a lot of just same things with different colors of paint, but some characters also are kind of like a little bit broken. But generally speaking, I think the reason why Ultimate Ninja Storm isn't as big as competitive is because the same strategies applies to most characters. Where when you're playing something like Mortal Kombat or FighterZ, like you're gonna be doing different strategies for different characters because everybody plays so differently. And like the matchups actually matter. Where in Naruto, like the matchups don't matter at all. Just some characters are better than others.
Right, and I mean that's beyond how it is to spectate. That's like just how much possibility there is in the game.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, like I do enjoy Ninja Storm. I mean, I haven't played a lot of it, but I used to play it a little bit with my friend Vaughn.
Yeah,
I think there's lots of different characters. It looks really cool, and there is like
have you played
strategies?
Have you played the most recent one?
No way. This is like a couple of years ago that we were playing Ninja Storm.
Okay. So Ultimate Ninja Storm 4, I feel like kind of bridges that, like, it feels a bit more competitive just because of it playing better and it like it feeling a little less broken. It's still Ultimate Ninja Storm, but I do think adding in the like giving you more options to plan things out rather than just giving you the entire toolbox to fuck with your opponent does make you think a bit more when you're playing rather than just mash buttons.
I mean, if that sounds good. I mean, yeah. It's not like I don't think there's any potential to make a game like this that is deep. So if the newest one has got a little bit more going on, that sounds cool. I mean, I always like the idea of a fighting game where the camera is behind the back and it's looks more like a typical action game. I just think it's an interesting concept, and there's a certain like visceral kind of energy to it that I think is really fun. So I hope someone, if not Ninja Storm, I hope somebody pulls that off. There's got to be a way to make a deep game like that.
We need to make fucking Nerome Ultimate Ninja Nerome Storm Nerome.
That's every character is Nerome.
Every character is Nerome, but they all play differently, but they're actually kind of just all play the same.
Enter the Nerome verse. You've
been Neromed.
For anyone who's listening to this point and doesn't know us, Nerome is a character that I wrote about when I was like 14. Like we're coming up on, I forget if it's on like the 10th anniversary of that character existing.
Oh my god.
And I was thinking of like, we're completely off the rails on this podcast now, so we should probably wrap up. But you just reminded me that I kind of, at some point this year, I want to write another post with Nerome to mark the 10-year anniversary, and just like add another post as if people hadn't completely abandoned that roleplay. Just drop it in there.
You had to like make it like 10 years later, Nerome's thinking back on these events.
That could be fun. I would like it to be sort of like a mini ending. 'Cause there's not really a way to write an ending from that point, but I think that'd be fun. Anyway,
it's like 10 years later, like Nerome has like a wife and 3 kids, and he has like a 8 to 5 job. He goes to every day, and he's just like oh man, those good times when I was a kid, like just running around murdering people.
Yeah, that was fun. Now my kids have little tiny tentacles, and they're like, Dada, I need souls.
And then like he just like goes off to like Walmart and brings back like a jar of souls.
Yeah, because that's a new advancement that's happened in the last 10 years. Because corporations are evil.
If there's any store that's going to sell souls, it's going to be Walmart.
That's true.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that covers it for talking fighting games today.
Hey man, there are lots of cool fighting games out there that are cool for different reasons. If you like fighting the AI, cool. If you like fighting other people, cool.
If you like Ultimate Ninja Storm, smash that like button and ding that bell.
This doesn't have to be a battle, Trybien. This is I'm not anti Ninja Storm.
If you're anti Ninja Storm, smash that dislike button and write a scathing comment about how my opinions are trash.
Don't put the destruction of our channel on me.
No.
If you agree with Brett, then dislike. No.
And this has been Bros in a Landfill. Thanks for watching. Fatality.
Ba-ba-bum.